Hello, and welcome to our exciting webinar, The Genius of Play and STEAM, in celebration of National STEM STEAM Day today. My name is Amanda Sullivan, and I'm the manager of our national webinar series here at NGCP, and I'm so thrilled that you've all come today. This webinar is being recorded. I wanted to let you know that, and the chats and the slides, all of that will be saved for you to access after this presentation as well. If you need any help with tech support or accessing the live transcripts, which we have enabled, please feel free to direct message Nancy Scales-Coddington, also from NGCP. You'll see her a lot in the chat, sharing links and helping moderate your questions. So she is here as well. So we're going to get started with our great panel speakers in just a minute, but I wanted to give you some background about what we do at NGCP, who we are, in case this might be the first webinar that you're joining us for. And I see that we have a lot of people joining us here today. If you're new to NGCP and the work that we do, our vision is here on screen. NGCP is a national network of diverse stakeholders who are advancing the agenda of gender equity. We bring together organizations that are committed to informing and encouraging girls to consider STEM. As a network of networks, our reach is broad. The programs in our network serve 20 million girls, and because many of our programs also serve boys, we are reaching 12 million boys as well. NGCP has been transforming STEM for 20 years. This is actually an exciting year. It's our 20th anniversary year. And our vision, it's simple. It's to support and create STEM experiences that are as diverse as the world that we live in. We strive to create change, and our work empowers providers, educators, leaders, and the youth themselves. You can see our 3 essential goals on screen here. NGCP believes that STEM skills can be acquired by anyone and fostered in everyone. Our initiatives build confidence and create a community of lifelong STEM activators. Through the power of collaboration, we spark curiosity and develop a passion for STEM. We share resources and solutions with a coalition of leaders, and also via our website, newsletters, online databases, social media, and webinars like this one. NGCP also strengthens the capacity of programs by sharing exemplary practices, research, and program models. When programs are stronger and more sustainable, girls and youth are better served. We distribute these resources in accessible ways, such as train the trainer programs and online platforms. And finally, we leverage our network of girls-serving STEM programs, advocates, and youth so that together we can create the tipping point for gender equity in STEM. And I forgot to mention, if you wouldn't mind, keeping yourselves muted as we are speaking, and we'll have a chance for questions and answers throughout the chat and at the end of the presentation. And then I also just wanted to quickly share a few of our NGCP activities that we currently work on, in case many of you are new to NGCP. We engage in activities virtually as well as nationally, as well as through local collaboratives. As I'm sharing about some of these, which have great associated resources, Nancy will be popping some useful links into the chat for you. But we partner with organizations to scale and deliver content, such as the Leap into Science National Network, in partnership with the Franklin Institute and the Million Girl Moonshot, in partnership with STEM Next and the Mott After School State Networks, serving hundreds of educators via local networks. Working with Lyda Hill Philanthropies, NGCP manages the If Then collection, a digital library housing photos, videos, and other media of women in STEM. These media are excellent resources and they're available at no cost, so definitely check that out if you are interested. We host the Youth Advisory Board. The Youth Advisory Board helps to review and provide feedback on current NGCP initiatives, and they help to be a voice guiding the future direction of NGCP. FabFems is an international database of female role models from many STEM fields. They're passionate about the work they do and are ready to connect with programs and spark girls' interests. Locally, state collaborative leadership teams offer convenings, providing professional development, mini grants for innovative projects when funding is available, and they also distribute their own newsletters highlighting those local resources. You already know about webinars. You found this one. We offer them monthly on a variety of topics that help our networks grow and thrive. And if you haven't already signed up for our newsletter, Nancy will be putting that in the chat as another useful resource for you. You'll be the first to hear about our online events, our resources, and new things that we're working on and putting out there. And I will be introducing now why you're all here, our wonderful speakers talking on this topic of the genius of play and STEAM. As I mentioned a moment ago, we'll have a chance for formal Q&A with our speakers towards the end of our webinar hour together, but you're welcome and encouraged to keep going in the chat like you've been doing. We ask you to stay muted so we don't get that echo that we were having earlier, but you'll have a chance to put all your questions, comments, and ideas in the chat. And we hope that you enjoy that. So before I turn it over to these experts, I just want to say a few brief words about the wonderful panel of speakers that we have today. So first, we have Anna Udina. She joined the Toy Association in February of 2015 as the Director of Marketing Communications. Ms. Udina is spearheading the association's Genius of Play initiative to raise awareness of play as a crucial part of child development and encourage families to make time for play in their daily lives. Since its launch in June 2015, the Genius of Play has reached millions of parents, caregivers, and educators, providing research-based facts, expert advice, and a host of play activities through its website, social media channels, live events, and various media. Ms. Udina has also been leading the Toy Association's strategic STEAM initiative, which culminated in the development of the comprehensive STEAM toy assessment framework and launched the industry's first official STEAM toy accreditation program. We're also joined today by Dr. Amanda Gummer. Dr. Amanda Gummer is a psychologist who specializes in child development, play, and parenting. She is the media's go-to expert to discuss family issues and is the founder and CEO of Dr. Gummer's Good Play Guide, one of the UK's leading sites for independent toy and app reviews and advice. We're also joined by Tyler Kearns, the current program coordinator for the Clayton Kids Zone with the Clayton School District. Tyler is a National After School Association Next Generation honoree and a National Play Ambassador with the Genius of Play. His knowledge base comes not only from research, but experience on the front lines as he continues to hone his craft on-site daily with staff and students. Tyler is the Professional Development Committee Chair with the Missouri After School Network, working to further advance the professional development for after-school professionals in his state. So thank you for coming to speak and share your knowledge and expertise with us today. This is a topic as a parent and someone with an early childhood background I'm so interested in and so committed to the benefits of play. And I'm really looking forward, like everyone else here, to hearing you speak. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Anna to get us started. Anna?
Oh, thank you, Amanda. Hi, everybody, and happy STEM and STEAM Day. It's so exciting to talk to you about play and toys and STEAM on this day. And as you already know, I lead the Genius of Play. So I will be sharing a lot of resources that we have developed through the Genius of Play that I think will be really valuable in your work as educators. And also a lot of you, I'm sure, are parents. Those are the two key audiences for the Genius of Play, parents and educators. And as Amanda mentioned, we started by sharing a lot of research and advocating for the benefits of play, but really evolved into a resource, providing families and educators with everything that they need to bring more play, whether it's to the classroom or to the playroom. So before we dive into what specifically we do and how you can benefit from those resources, I did want to talk about the benefits of play, because this is really all our resource. The entire program is organized around those 6 benefits. I'm sure you're familiar with all of them. The point that I would like to make here is that while kids learn something from every type of play, what they learn is not the same. They learn different things from different types of play. So it is really important that kids have access to a variety of different resources, a variety of different playthings, toys, activities, that really help them develop all kinds of different skills. Wanted to mention a couple of studies here. One study, for instance, that has been done fairly recently, studied specifically doll play, playing with dolls, and what are kids learning. The study found that when kids play with dolls, they actually, the same regions in the brain get activated that are responsible for developing empathy and other emotional skills like that. So definitely playing with dolls and emotional benefits of play, there is a strong link. But on the other hand, puzzle play, for instance, completely different. And there have also been studies on that found that playing with puzzles fosters spatial skills that are critical to learning a lot of things, including the foundations of STEM. So really important to keep in mind as you are working with kids in your programs, as you're raising kids as parents, that different kinds of play have built different kinds of skills. And that is exactly what we're trying to do when we develop the Genius of Play resources. So now I'm going to jump into what we offer on our website through all the different platforms that we have. So the resources are organized around the benefits of play. There are tons of play ideas and activities, literally hundreds, that you can find on our website. And they're great for families with kids, but they also can be used very effectively in informal education setting. So a lot of users of our website, we know that they work in after-school programs and children's museums, libraries. So a lot of people very similar to the audience that we have today that use all those activities. You can filter them down by age. So we try to make it very convenient. So if you're working with 3-year-olds or you're working with 10-year-olds, you're able to get to those activities right away. And we even have them sorted by setup time. So depending on how much time you have, you can choose something that only requires 3 minutes or something that may require a little bit more, 15 minutes or more. In addition to those activities that are step-by-step, that tell you everything that kids are learning along the way, we also have resources that are what I call like print and go. So coloring pages, word searches, connect the dots, all sorts of things we have created and organized them all in one place. So when you need something for kids to do on their own or with minimal supervision, you have access to that as well. We also have the for teachers section. So it looks like there are a lot of informal educators in the audience, but in case there are some formal educators who are looking for something that's a little bit more tied to curriculum, that has specific learning goals. So not as general as like, oh, it has like cognitive benefits of play or emotional. Well, what exactly kids are learning? Maybe it's a lesson in natural science or a specific area in the math curriculum. So we have that section as well, and they are basically play-based lesson plans that, again, you can download and print that are great to use with students when you're looking to achieve a specific learning outcome. We also have expert advice, and that is not written by us. That is written by all of our partners who we're so grateful for having so many great supporters of the Genius of Play, people who work in child development and education, pediatrician, occupational therapists, people, psychologists, they come from all the different disciplines. And our goal here is to get you the latest expert information on the topics that matter to you. So this year, for instance, the most popular content on our website in the expert advice has been around dealing with anger, managing stress, diversity, fostering that inclusion and respect for everybody. And obviously, this is not surprising because those are the topics that are top of mind with families as well as educators. So we see that from the content that's popular on our website, and we always try to bring you more of that type of content that you're looking for. And finally, We have the Once Upon a Playtime podcast that's also available from the website, but you can also find it on Apple, on Spotify, wherever you're listening to podcasts. So this is a little different. This is not an activity. This is something that really bridges together education and entertainment. Those are little shows, 15 minutes long, and we interview wonderful guests. We had Alicia Silverstone, Simon Sinek, we had a Broadway dancer. So very successful, famous people who come from different walks of life. We ask them how they played as a kid. Did they have a favorite toy? Did they play with toys or without toys? Maybe they just like to be outside and run around with other kids. So we had people like that on the podcast as well. And then we connect how they play to what they learn and how it helped them become who they are today. So those are great inspirational stories. We designed them to be very kid friendly. So it's actually for adults to listen together with kids. So they're great to listen if you're a parent, but also if you're an educator, that could be a great platform to start a discussion in class, for instance. And it approaches kids where they are, because it's all from the perspective of play, which is the perspective that they naturally understand. So several years ago, we expanded the Genius of Play specifically into the STEM and STEAM area. And I wanted to share with you results from the survey that we did with 2,000 parents. There were some things, it was all about STEM and STEAM, and there were some things that were not surprising and some things that surprised us a little bit. So what was not surprising to us is that the majority of parents, as many as 76%, said that they would love for their child to end up in a STEM-related career. And they even told us the specific professions that they wanted for their kid. The top ones were engineer, doctor, web developer, scientist. So obviously, there is a huge opportunity in those fields in the United States, as well as worldwide. There's a huge demand for those kind of professionals, and parents would love for their kids to pursue that career, not surprisingly. What surprised them and even shocked us a little bit is how early parents think kids should get started on that future career. The ideal age on average ended up being 5.5 years old. So parents think that it's totally fine for a very, very young kid to sort of like start exploring and maybe developing an interest, a passion, something that can grow into a passion down the road. So really, really parents want to start as early as possible. And what does it tell me? Well, to me, the answer is clear that play is extremely critical to helping get kids inspired and excited about STEM and STEAM. Because if it's a 5 or a 6 or a 7-year-old, you're not going to lecture them about what it means to be an engineer. You're not going to get technical in that way. The best approach, as we know from science, is to teach hands-on, through play, through things that kids can relate to. So play and toys, absolutely the best tools to get kids who are that young excited about STEM and STEAM. And parents actually recognize that. Another thing that we got from the survey is 82% of parents look for ways specifically to encourage their child's learning through play. So parents know that play works. And that kind of like inspired us at the Genius of Play and the Toy Association to provide even more resources, because we know there is this huge demand on the part of parents for play-based learning resources, and specifically in the STEAM area. So today, I'm very excited to reveal our newest resource for STEM and STEAM, the STEAM Playbook. Literally launched just a couple of hours ago on the STEM and STEAM Day. It is a handy activity guide for parents as well as educators, and we partnered with the National Girls Collaborative on this project. So I wanted to thank Amanda and the entire team. They were incredibly helpful and supportive. They helped us review all the content, make sure it's age appropriate, make sure we have notifications for kids who are younger, who are older. So there's really something for everybody in this resource. You can always modify activities for kids who are a little bit older, make them more difficult, or you can simplify them. There are play ideas for every letter in STEM, science, technology, engineering, math, and then we have art woven in throughout, because that's what we believe in at the Toy Association and the Genius of Play, that creativity, that innovation that the arts brings to the table, that should be part of absolutely every STEM activity. And that's why we go with STEAM rather than STEM. There are also ready to use activities in the book. Maybe we play videos so that people can get a glimpse into what's inside. And that's a very short video, but you can see that there's ready to use stuff, that there are play ideas that are step by step. It's a lot of fun, and it all is available at our website, thegeniusofplay.org, and also NGCP website as well. And we're going to put a link in the chat also. So that's about play is obviously very, very important to building all kinds of skills, including STEAM. But we are the Toy Association, so we also want to make sure that we understand the role of toys and how toys can effectively contribute to building those skills in kids. So in addition to developing all those great play-based resources through the Genius of Play, the Toy Association has also done extensive research to answer really one simple question. What is a STEAM toy? What makes a toy STEAM? Because there are a lot of toys, and there are even a lot of toys that claim that they're STEAM, but what is really behind that? What are the criteria? So that research was a journey, an exciting journey that happened in several stages. As you see, stage 1, 2, 3, there was a report at every stage. So those are available to you. We're going to put a link in the chat. So if you're interested in learning more about the findings at every stage of the research, you're more than welcome to check them out. But what we are going to focus on today is the final stage, which was developing specific criteria and the entire framework for evaluating and assessing STEAM toys. And for that part of the journey, the Toy Association partnered with Dr. Amanda Gummer and the Good Play Guide. They have literally decades of experience in child development as well as toy evaluation. So their expertise was incredibly helpful to help define those criteria and make sure that they're based in research, that there is a solid foundation for the framework. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Gummer, and she's going to dive into the results of that collaboration.
Thanks, Anna. Really appreciate that. So yeah, it was a couple of years ago now that Anna and the team at the Toy Association came to us and said that they wanted to be able to have a sort of a standard, so that, and a benchmark, so that toy companies could assess their own products against a framework and make sure that they were doing the right thing, making evidence-based claims, because I think we've all seen toys that make fairly outlandish claims around the benefits of playing with that product and how wonderful what wonderful things it'll do for your children's development and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, we work really hard in sort of breaking down what a good STEAM toy should look like in order to provide these guidelines for the industry. And if we move on to the next slide, you'll see there are 3 parts to developing a good toy, a good STEAM toy. And the first one is that it has to be a good toy first and foremost. If a child doesn't want to play with it because it's too difficult, too complicated, they don't understand the instructions, it's boring, they can't play with it with their friends, they don't really understand how it works, it doesn't speak to them. If it's not a fun, engaging, easy to use product, doesn't matter how educational it is, the kids aren't going to play with it. So all of that learning, all of that good stuff gets lost. So the first part of any assessment that we do is based on our good toy assessment process, which is looking at, is it fun and engaging? Do the kids really enjoy playing with it? Do they know how to use it? Even with a bit of help or teacher input, parent input and stuff, is it easy to use? Is it something that they have to spend hours setting up, or going and finding unusual ingredients or equipment from around the home that they may not have? Is it frustrating? So, you know, if it is frustrating, it gets marked down on the ease of use. And does it actually support development of skills? Is it age appropriate? Does it meet the children where they're at and help them move forward in their development of a range of skills? And the other thing that we want to make sure is prioritized is inclusivity. Does it appeal to a wide range of children? Is it accessible to children maybe with additional needs? So that's the first part of the assessment. We then move on to look at the STEAM attributes. Now, STEAM for us, we decided was more than just science, technology, engineering, maths, even with the art added in. And those STEAM attributes are listed here. So things like real world relevance. We get a lot of children learning maths and go, well, why do I need to know trigonometry? When am I ever going to use that in real life? So a good STEAM toy has real world relevance. Kids can relate to it. They can see why the learning might be useful. They understand where it fits into their everyday life. It's active. You can sit and watch a program on science and technology and maths and engineering, and that active involvement isn't there. So the learning is very sort of one-dimensional. Learning through play is multimodal. It involves many senses, and that helps with the learning, because the more hooks you put something into your brain with, the more hooks you've got to get it out again. So that's really important as well. The arts comes into this, so that creativity, the appreciating the beauty of the world, and that sort of self-expression, and just being able to relate to other people in an imaginative, creative way, as well as logical thinking, so that problem solving and working out strategy and step by step. And with young children, that would be trial and error learning. With older children, it would be hypothesis testing, that kind of if-then logic that's so important for things like coding and computers and IT. The other thing that we really look for in this is that free exploration. So you may have instructions in this, but can children then go, but what happens if? I wonder why. I wonder what would happen if I did X, Y, or Z. And that free exploration, that fostering that curiosity, I think is something that helps children develop that lifelong love of learning. So I think that's really important as well. And then the other thing is the learning within it logical and bite-sized? So children don't just master one thing and then give up because the jump between what they've mastered on level 1 and level 2 is too big. Can they move from level 1 to level 2 to level 3, building on their knowledge in a step-by-step way that reinforces what they've already learned and gives them that confidence and learning around the topic that they're studying? So that's the second part. And then the third part is for a STEAM toy to pass that STEAM accreditation, it has to be multidisciplinary, because otherwise it's a maths toy or it's a science toy. So we've identified the science, technology, engineering and maths, and there needs to be at least a little bit of at least 2 of those categories within the play. So it might be a really great maths toy, but if that is all it is, it won't pass that STEAM accreditation program because it's not multidisciplinary enough. So in terms of where we are with what we want STEAM to represent for the industry and for parents and people looking for guidance on which STEAM products to buy, we felt that was really important, because you can put maths toys into Amazon, you can put science toys into the search engine, and you can find toys that are specific for every subject. But for it to be a STEAM toy, we felt that the multidisciplinary approach was really important. So they're the 3 phases, if you like, of the assessment process. And we started off by giving it to the toy industry to say, this is what we think you should be doing. This is how it works. Use this to raise standards within the industry. And the response from the industry was wonderful. And they were like, this is great, but can we have a sort of an independent accreditation, a stamp of approval? And that's when I was a couple of years ago now, maybe last summer, I think it was, we launched this this program so that you can now go out and look for that STEAM accreditation stamp, because we have toy companies submitting products to us for us to review, both in the UK and the USA. And when we do that review, we go through that whole process, but because it's independent, we have obviously the backing of the Toy Association to be able to say, yeah, this is a good STEAM toy. And you can find a curation of them on Amazon, which is, if you're looking for a good STEAM toy and you want to see where all of these are available to buy, you can go straight to Amazon. The Toy Association website has a list of all the accredited products as well. So it's very easy to find the accredited products. And I would urge everybody to look for that seal of approval, because it does mean that the product has been through rigorous testing. And we are very transparent about this. So things like characteristics of a good toy, we explain what that means, and we explain what the ratings are like. And it's really important to us that we're not just sitting there with a tick box, and we encourage the toy industry to learn from the process. And we've had some great feedback that people actually value the feedback that they get from us, even if they failed the accreditation, because actually what it does is it helps them think differently about it and make some amendments. So if we move on maybe a couple of slides, because I think I've been talking around, so I've been talking around these all on that first slide. But so some examples, here we go, let's stick on that, go back a slide. Sorry, there we go. So some examples of products, and this is the logo that you should be looking for, that accreditation stamp. That's on most of the products that have been accredited. It's certainly on e-commerce sites and like I said, the Genius of Play website and the Amazon page. So you can find, they're also all part of the Good Play Guide now as well. So you can find toys like this. And what we've done, if you're looking at the STEAM accreditation framework in the whole, and again, all available on one of the links in the one of the previous links here, the toyassociation.org/STEAM, you can see the framework there, and you can see that what's a good STEAM toy for a 18-month to 2-year-old is not the same as a good STEAM toy for a 5-year-old, for example. So we've broken it down, and looking at the different types of play that children at different ages do, we've identified where they should be in the maths, where they should be in their science, where they should be in their engineering, and where they should be in their technology. And we've pulled that out. So for example, this toy here, it's really good to provide that sort of hands-on strategic thinking, and actually perseverance is a really good skill to be developing in terms of that real world experience, that prime STEAM attributes that comes into that. So that strategic thinking, perseverance, and this is essentially a maths game, but it's got more to it than that. And it was that strategic thinking that I think made it a STEAM toy, not just a maths game. And if we move on to the older one, that kind of the technology, as you get older, children are able to use their imagination, they test hypotheses, they can follow the instructions. But these kind of toys, this circuit blocks, allows children to really experiment and sort of try different constructions and different combinations, so they can practice that hypothesis testing. If I do this, this, and this, will that happen? Will it light up? Will it do whatever? So I think that kind of thing is what we're looking for when we are testing these STEAM toys. And I think that being able to have a framework that spans the age ranges, so it's not just, and this is what drives me nuts about those sort of top 10 toys at Christmas, because top 10 toys for who? Because a STEAM toy for a 9-year-old is very different from a sporty toy for a 4-year-old. It's not necessarily better, it's just different. But by giving these kind of ratings and the accreditation and the reviews, we're able to help parents find products that really fit with their children's needs and interests and develop those really important STEAM topics. So that's basically how we've structured it. So I mean, if you're interested in this from a more sort of academic point of view, do have a look at the STEAM accreditation framework on the Toy Association's website, and do make sure that you look out for that stamp of approval when you're shopping for STEAM toys this Christmas. And I'm going to hand it over to Tyler.
Hi, everybody. So I am going to be jumping into like what it's actually like to have STEAM education in your programs. So as Amanda said, I'm a program coordinator, so I oversee staff for Before and After School Network as well as being frontline with the kids every day. So this was just a word bubble that my staff put together when I was planning for this. I just threw out, hey, when you started, like when I said you're going to be teaching STEAM in our program, like what were the first words that popped into your mind? So if you look at the word bubble, the bigger words are the words that they said more. The smaller words are the words that came up less. So a lot of staff, so my staff is anywhere from a high school junior or senior to all the way to people in their 60s, 70s, 80s. And they all pitch into our program and help with the STEM education piece and the play piece and everything. So a lot of them, said, yes, it's engaging, but it's scary. Like, I did not plan on teaching anything science or math, like that is not my field. I'm like, but we can do it. So if we want to go ahead and jump to the next slide. So STEM doesn't have to be, or STEAM doesn't have to be scary at all. It's actually really easy to do, whether you're at home with your own kids or in a program with youth. There's just some really easy things that you can do to kind of bring that STEAM education into your program or into your house with the kids that you're working with. So these are all pictures from my program. A lot of them happened over the summer. Some of them happened actually just a few weeks ago, but these are projects that we do with the kids on a yearly, daily basis. So that first picture is one of those STEAM accredited toys. It's a coding robot that the kids, all ages, so my program is pre-K through 5th grade, and all the ages can work with that robot. They love when we get the robots out. When the robots aren't out, they're actually like begging to get them out. So it's actually fun to see. And they can follow step-by-step instructions or be facilitated by a staff member. But what we encourage our staff to do is over there in the wording is just making sure you're asking purposeful questions. So the idea behind STEAM is to really get the kids thinking about what's happening, why it's happening, how it's happening, and going from there. So in that picture with the robot, those two girls are, trying to navigate that robot across the gym floor and make it do different functions and different goals that it's meeting. So a lot of what we focus on when we think about STEAM is that open-ended play. So there's not a direct purpose, there's not a direct outcome. A lot of the kids, they say, oh, I made a mistake. I did this wrong. I'm like, no, you didn't. Well, what'd you do that you thought was wrong? And let's fix it. Like, what did you want out of it and how can we get there? And that's what kids want to hear. Like, I know a lot of our kids in our program, they're so used to being in the classroom and having a right and wrong answer. And when they come to us in after school, I'm like, there are no wrong answers. There's mistakes. Yeah. I'm like, we as adults make mistakes too. And they're like, what? You make mistakes? Like, yeah, I make mistakes all the time. What's important is that we reflect on them and that we fix them. And that's one of the big lessons that we teach when we do STEAM or we do our makerspace projects is, yeah, mistakes happen, but it's how can we look back and, fix it. Or the problem solving piece. So the next picture is the cardboard tower that you see. So this was a summer project that we did. We had a lot of recyclable materials. Teachers donated a lot of Amazon boxes to us in the summer program. They're like, can you use these? I was like, yeah, definitely, we'll use them. So we used our summer program and we actually had the kids each design a part of a theme park. So the idea behind it was we pitched to our summer kids. We had about 2 weeks with them for this project. And we said, hey, we've been tasked to design the next Disney World or the next Six Flags. Like, we have to design a theme park and it's your job to group up, come up with some sort of feature or ride or game for the theme park. And we're going to build a model out of it. So the education part of it came into like, what does it take to be a theme park planner? You have to have an entryway. You have to have, what are the things that we have to have as far as Where do people walk, restrooms, things like that. What do the rides look like? And then they worked in groups and designed the rides. So everything we built was out of cardboard, tape, recyclable materials, and then they got to decide if it was a roller coaster or a water ride, or some kids built, they're like, well, I don't really like to ride rides. Like, can I build like, but I like to play the games. And then they built a game that could actually be played. So that's where that problem solving came in, is they got to see, from the planning side, and talked about, making a blueprint and kind of that whole thing from start to finish, what it takes to build a theme park, because they don't just get built overnight. When we're talking about STEAM, like with my staff, we really focus on those 21st century skill buildings. So being creative, the kids working together, being collaborative, those critical thinking skills, which come into like the cardboard construction of, kid comes up, I don't know how to put this together. And they're looking for that guided answer. And those of you that are parents in the room, our kids come up with us that like, just fix it, mom, just fix it, dad, like, just do it. And like, no, like, figure it out. Like, I'll watch, I'll facilitate. I'm here to help guide, but let's figure out how that's going to happen. So that's kind of where those 21st century skill building items come in. So down in the bottom left picture underneath the robot, that was another project we did this summer. It's pendulum painting. So we started tying that art in there. So it was kind of a STEAM project for the staff, because we had to figure out how to build the pendulum out of kind of what we had. So we actually used, it's a clothes rack. Like one of those like rolly clothes racks. And I was like, well, that looks like something we could use. And then we had a string and a cup, and we tried different things like a bucket versus a cup. But basically you hang the bucket that we ended up using from the middle of the clothing rack, and then put the paper underneath it and put a hole in the bottom and put the paint in there, and the kids get to swing the bucket. And we talk about gravity and force and kind of how the design gets made. And then we tie into, the arts of radial symmetry versus abstract. So the kids got to all experience like pendulum painting. And then a project that's used a lot that I kind of start all of my staff with is that next picture with the foil boats. And we actually just did this in programming yesterday. And it can be done with a little, like we used just a kiddie pool over the summer. Yesterday, we just used a little like pie pan because we didn't have access to a lot of water. But basically the kids, you tie in that lesson of why do things float? A good precursor to this is just that sink and float, which some of my staff, they'll be like, oh, I remember that as a kid. I'm like, yeah, like, think back, like when you were a kid, some of those things that your teachers did, and then bring that. So you get, you start with sink and float, talk about why things float with buoyancy and air, and then, the design of different boats and why boats float and how those work. And then you let them have a chance to actually create the boat, and then see if it floats first. And then after that, we did paper clips for this specific challenge, and seeing how many boats or how many paper clips their boat can hold. My suggestion, if you do this at home or do it in your program, is use something a little heavier, use like coins. The teacher that just did this project yesterday tied in some math to it with counting money. So she just grabbed a bunch of change out of her car, and it was, how much could your boat hold, but in dollars. So after they put all the change in, then they took the change out, and then they counted the money with the kids. And, I think the boat that won held like $3.75. So there was that little math piece. You can also go into graphing. But needless to say, STEM education or STEAM education, it's easy. A lot of people, when you come in and somebody's like, hey, you're going to be our STEAM educator, they're like, what? Like, I didn't go to school for this. That's not what my degree's in. Like, there's more and more of those degrees popping up that you can go get certified to be a STEAM teacher. But you don't have to be. It's very easy to bring in some of those easy projects if you just remember, asking those purposeful questions, keeping it open-ended, coming up with a problem, either, real world or, have the kids come up with a problem. We've had a kid like, hey, all right, so our problem today is that we need to get Kid Zone, which is my program, to the moon. And they're like, what are we going to do to get to the moon? I'm like, I don't know. What are we going to build to get to the moon? We have, 75 kids here today. What kind of structure, what kind of thing is going to get us there? But having those, problems to get their brains thinking, and then just tying in those 21st century skill building into that STEAM education. So I think I'm turning it over to Amanda for our Q&A.
Thank you so much to our three speakers. I could see the chat just kind of blowing up as everyone was speaking. So thank you to all our attendees today for being so participatory in the chat and for sharing your questions, your ideas, and your resources. So now we're in that Q&A portion. Nancy has been sending me a few questions that I'll read aloud, but also feel free to pop your question in right now as well. So one question that came up, and any of you who feel like you can answer it, feel free to chime in. It's about gender neutrality. So what are your thoughts on gender neutrality with toys? This is like a big question when it comes to choosing toys for young children. There's that pink toys equals girls in the marketing, blue toys equals boys. Do we want it neutral? Do we want everyone to feel like they can grab any color toy? I see Dr. Gummer has already unmuted. Would you like to share a few of your thoughts on that question?
Yeah, of course. Great question. And there is a push to get girls into STEAM partly because traditionally it's been seen as a masculine subject, and that's just not the case. And I think in terms of that gender neutrality, I want to live in a world where children can follow their interests, and a child of either gender can go and pick up a perfume making kit or a mechanic building set, and they're learning similar skills through both of them, and it's just about following their interests. So I think that there is a place for gender neutral products, especially in something like STEAM. But I also think we don't need to not make it pink or not make it blue, because if you have a child who likes pink, it doesn't mean that they shouldn't be able to play with STEAM. So the sort of, for me, it's exactly what Amanda just said. Children should be able to play with everything. We should cater for all tastes and preferences. And I don't care whether a child is learning to count, whether by counting dinosaur spines or wheels on a train or leaves on a tree. If they're learning to count, that learning is happening. So it's about meeting the kids where they're at and finding their interests and letting them learn through play that way.
Thank you for that great answer. We had another question. This one is for Tyler. Could you share a little bit more about what concepts they explored with the pendulum painting activity?
Yeah, definitely. So that was a lot of questions and figuring out. So we left that one pretty open-ended with the kids the staff did a painting together and we showed them the picture. And we're like, we started with, how do you think we created this using this contraption that we built? So a lot of the concepts that we explored was just, what is going to happen if we did this? So, with the bucket that the paint was in, does it make a difference if it's a big hole versus a small hole that the paint drips out of? Does it make a difference if we use tempera paint versus acrylic paint versus house paint? So we had all those things on hand. And then the kids explored with, if I pull the bucket back this far, what happens? And then we talked about, the force of if it goes back this far, it's going to swing out. And then what design does that make on the paper? So, a lot of kids wanted to get like a spiral design. So we were like, okay, well, how are we going to create a spiral design with that? And really left it open-ended for the kids to explore, like, okay, I need to push the bucket or pull it back this far to get it to do that spiral. Or, like I said, the size of the hole in the paint, because some kids were like a big hole and then it's just the paint just falls through and makes a big splotch instead of a smaller hole where it's more concentrated. And then we got into, why is a smaller hole better to concentrate that paint versus a big hole where it's just all going to fall out. So that one was just a lot of exploration and the kids going, well, what if, and then going, okay, yeah, let's try it with that.
Thank you, Tyler. Okay, we have another question coming in. Are there great places to search for pre-K and K STEM programming resources. As an early childhood person, I relate to this question. It says, I feel like there are millions of programs for first grade and up, but not as much for pre-K summer camps. So I'll let anyone who feels like they want to share jump in. Of course, our genius of our STEAM playbook is going to be great for that age range. And as Anna mentioned, there are activities that that say they're for 4 or 5 and up, but we have modifications for going younger and older. And we recently did an NGCP webinar on addressing STEM stereotypes with young children. You might want to check out that recording and those slides, because all of those speakers worked specifically with young children, and they shared some of their websites and their resources as well. Did anyone else want to jump in?
Yeah, just to say with the K and pre-K resources, you might want to look at stuff that isn't technically based or isn't a tech toy. You can get a lot of that coding, programming skills through some offline, if you like, non-tech toys or games that teach that if then logic, or 3 steps forward, 1 step right, and where'd you go, that kind of mapping around. There are quite a few of those on the goodplayguide.com, but I think if you look at Genius of Play as well, there's lots of ideas. But I think when we're talking about teaching children coding, we don't necessarily need to go straight for a tech toy, and I think that's worth flagging.
Yes, absolutely. Lots of great unplugged resources, activities as well. And a great person you can look up if you're looking for reading is Marina Umashi Bears. She's written several books on early childhood coding and doing things screen-free, and all the research that has gone into that body of work with this pre-K audience that you're asking about. Okay, one more question for Tyler. How do you facilitate staff trainings? Time is difficult to set aside, but then there's also the staff turnover issue. Do you have any thoughts on how you can effectively facilitate those staff trainings?
Definitely. So I have quarterly staff meetings. So we at least have 4 at the very minimum that are just job expectations. So when I get my staff at the beginning of the year, so we're just a school year based program. So we run August to May and then have a month for summer. And then we're back at it in August. So from that August to May time, I have 4 quarterly meetings that are already set. And those are just expectations that I set with staff that they're all staff training. You have to be there for that. And so we do a lot of that. I also focus a lot on my leaders, my leadership development, and my veteran staff, because they're going to be the ones role modeling the STEM training and those activities on site. So if we can build them and get them going, those new staff, the younger staff that are turning over a lot, they're at least seeing that on site. And can kind of learn from that visual and kind of learn those expectations on site. The other thing I found that works well is I do a weekly newsletter. And in that newsletter, I include some sort of activity. So it'll be an activity that I've done or an activity that I find and say, hey, here's a great activity. Here's what you need, how to do it, pictures of the activity. And that way, those younger staff can get that newsletter. They can see it. They can just replicate that project. I mentioned earlier in the chat from the Genius of Play website, they do have those game resources. And anytime you can kind of spoon feed those younger staff, like, hey, you're in college, you're in high school, I know you don't have time to think of all this stuff, like, here's an activity that you can do, here's everything laid out. We have a lot more success with that. But then I also share anytime I find a good article or anything like that, I put that in the newsletter or email that out. We also try to print those out and have them on site and kind of, give them to staff and say, hey, you need to read this. So we try to sneak in some of that learning and give it to staff as many different ways that we can, because you're right, we don't have the time all the time to have monthly meetings or weekly meetings because it's a busy world. And as soon as you get somebody great and awesome, they leave and you have somebody to train again. So as much as we can get out there to the staff, and they can kind of even get it from osmosis of learning and seeing, I find that very successful.
Thank you. Thank you for that question and all of these answers. One question that came up earlier, I was scrolling through the chat while you all were speaking. I think this is directed to probably Anna or Dr. Gummer. The resources that you've been sharing, are they all publicly available, or are they accessible to anyone? There was a clarification question about those resources that were being shared.
Yeah, I saw that question, Amanda. So I answered it in the chat, but yeah, the geniusofplay.org resources, those are all free and publicly available. So you can access them through the website, thegeniusofplay.org. And as far as Toy Association reports, those are also free and publicly available. So like all that research, including the STEAM framework that Amanda was talking about, that is on toyassociation.org/STEAM.
And our STEAM playbook is also on our NGCP website. As Anna mentioned, it was a partner project. You can find that on our resources page of our NGCP website. And since everyone is chatting so much during the questions, I wanted to move on to this piece in case you want to share with the speakers something that you might try after this webinar. There were a lot of specific activity ideas suggested by Tyler, as well as a lot of resources and websites and research that you could look into, shared by Dr. Gummer and Anna. And we love to kind of close our webinars with, okay, we got all this information, but now what do we do with it? Inviting you to share in the chat something that you think you might do after this webinar. So we have someone saying they love the idea of that theme park, like maker designing a theme park. Liz is going to be downloading the STEAM playbook. Yay, we're so excited about that. Any other ideas that you have? We'd love to hear, and I'm sure that our speakers are really excited about that. Someone is going to work on collaboration and open-ended questions. A lot of people said they're going to be looking into all these websites and thinking about literature connections. Yes, I love that about STEAM. You know, a lot of times we're thinking like the arts are just painting or fine arts, but literature, music, drama, that's all the A of arts as well. A lot of people are going to be sharing these resources. Well, that is just so wonderful. I think I want to join you in thanking our three speakers for sharing so much. There's so much that I want to do after this webinar as well. Thank you so much to Tyler, Dr. Gummer, and Anna for sharing about the work that you do, the resources that are freely available to all of us out there, and to help guide the way we think about play and meaningfully choosing toys for our children. So I sincerely thank you for sharing your National STEAM Day with us. And I wanted to let you all know, you know, STEAM Day, National STEM STEAM Day is just getting started for us at NGCP. We actually have another webinar in about another hour starting here with the Girls STEAM Ahead with NASA project, sharing some exemplary practices and our celebration of National STEAM Day. So if you're looking for more resources, more ideas, please join us for that one a little bit later. And then coming up next month, we have a webinar during Computer Science Education Week, where we'll be learning about Microsoft Make Code. And then we're closing off our year in 2022. Nancy and I actually collaborating on hosting this virtual holiday networking party. So if you're looking to connect more and get more resources, learn from other educators or researchers or people in the field of STEM or STEM equity, or you're just interested in this, feel free to please join us for our holiday sweater networking event on Zoom. It's going to be really fun, really informal, and just a great way to end the year and make connections. We'll put all those links in the chat. You can always find everything on our website, ngcproject.org. And if you have any specific webinar questions or ideas, feel free to reach out to me directly. My email is on the screen here. And after I close our Zoom event, a survey is going to pop up on your screen, and Nancy will also be putting it in the chat for you. I would love if you would take a minute or two to fill out that survey, let us know your feedback, your thoughts, and help us guide what you'd like to see next, because that survey is actually a big piece of how we decide what speakers to bring and what topics that we want to explore. So once again, thank you to our 3 amazing speakers. Our recording, slides, and the chat transcript will all be made available to you and shared with you. And I really hope you enjoyed the rest of your STEM and STEAM day. Thank you so much.